I caught my wife cheating on our wedding night. No, not a week later. Not a month. That very night. While our guests were still nursing champagne flutes and toasting our forever, she was somewhere else on top of someone else. You think you know pain? Try zipping up your new tuxedo pants in a hotel bathroom, wondering if the woman you just vowed your life to is really just taking a shower or if she's screwing another man 3 floors down. Let me rewind. My name's Dylan. 32. Born and raised in Ohio, but I've been living in Charlotte, North Carolina for the last 5 years. I met Rachel at a wine tasting my company sponsored. She walked in wearing this emerald green dress that clung to her hips like silk glued to skin. She had that "I know I'm better than you" look, but somehow when she looked at me it melted. We started dating. Fast. Intense. She moved in after 6 months. I proposed after 10. Everyone said we were rushing it, but Rachel made it feel like time was irrelevant. Like love was all that mattered. I was so goddamn blind. Our wedding was a fairy tale. Vineyard venue. String quartet. White roses everywhere. She wore this lace gown that made every woman jealous and every man stare. I couldn't take my eyes off her. When she walked down that aisle, I actually cried. Yeah, real tears. Because I thought I'd won the jackpot. I remember the way she smiled during our vows. Like she meant every word. Like she saw no one but me. What a fucking lie. The reception was wild. Open bar. A live band. People were dancing, laughing, drunk on love and liquor. Rachel disappeared halfway through for what she said was a quick freshen up. Brides do that, right? No one noticed. But she was gone for too long. At first, I played it cool. Chatted with my best man, made a few rounds. Smiled until my cheeks ached. But 20 minutes passed. Then 30. I asked her maid of honor, Emily, if she'd seen Rachel. She just said, "Oh, she went to the suite to change shoes, I think." That's when something twisted in my gut. Something cold. I went up to the bridal suite. Knocked. No answer. Tried calling straight to voicemail. I had the key card. When I opened the door, the room was empty. But the bathroom light was on. Water running. I called her name. No answer. And then I noticed something, her phone on the nightstand. Lit up. A text. From someone named T. "I'm in 324. You coming?" My blood went cold. I stared at that screen like it was a knife through my chest. I shouldn't have. But I did. I took her phone. I went to the messages. They weren't new. They were ongoing. Secret. Hidden under a fake contact name. Photos. Videos. Things I can't unsee. And then laughter. From the hallway. A giggle I knew too well. I stepped out, turned toward the sound. Walked, heart pounding, down to room 324. The door was cracked. And inside, through the gap, I saw her. Still in her white dress. On top of him. My wife. My bride. My goddamn everything. Betraying me before the ink on our marriage license even dried. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe seconds. Maybe minutes. Time warped. Stretched. Folded into something meaningless as I watched my wife ride another man like I was already dead. Like I'd never existed. My first instinct was to kick the door in, scream, throw something, anything to shatter the illusion that this wasn't real. That I hadn't just married a woman who was capable of this level of betrayal. But instead I stood frozen. Paralyzed by the weight of what I was seeing. I watched her laugh. Moan. Whisper things I'd once thought were mine alone. She looked happy. Not guilty. Not hesitant. Just happy. And that broke me. I backed away slowly, heart pounding in my throat, barely breathing. I made it back to the elevator without collapsing. The lobby was still buzzing with our wedding guests, laughing, dancing, oblivious to the hell unraveling 3 floors above them. I ducked into the hotel bar. Ordered a whiskey. Then another. Then 3 more. The bartender gave me a look like he wanted to ask if I was okay. But I guess something in my face told him not to. I stared at my reflection in the glass behind the bar. Tuxedo crisp. Bow tie still perfect. But my eyes, they were hollow. Like I died in that hallway. I remember thinking, what now? What the hell do I do now? Walking back into that reception felt like walking into a movie I no longer belonged in. Rachel wasn't back yet. People kept asking where she was. I made excuses. She wasn't feeling well. Just taking a breather. Give her a few. Every word tasted like ash. My best man, Jared, pulled me aside eventually. Said, "Dude, you look pale as hell. What's going on?" I almost told him. Almost broke right there. But I didn't. I just shook my head and muttered something about being tired. He clapped me on the back and said, "Don't worry, man. You survived the wedding. It's all downhill from here." I wanted to scream. You have no idea. Rachel reappeared about 45 minutes later. Hair slightly messy. Lipstick reapplied just a little too carefully. She smiled at me like nothing had happened. Kissed my cheek. Whispered, "Sorry I took so long, baby. Had to fix my heel." Her heel. I nodded. Numb. Dead inside. We danced. Posed for photos. Cut the cake. People clapped. My parents cried. Her dad gave a toast that ended with, "To a love that will last forever." I almost vomited. When it was finally time to head back to the suite, she took my hand, smiling like the perfect bride. I followed. Like a puppet. Like a man walking willingly into his own grave. The room smelled like rose petals and betrayal. She peeled off her dress in front of me, slow, teasing. Like she hadn't just been naked for someone else an hour ago. I told her I needed to use the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat on the cold tile floor and stared at myself in the mirror again. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to say anything. Not yet. Let her think I didn't know. Let her rot in her lies a little longer. Let her dig her grave with her own hands. Because if she was going to play this game, then so was I. The next morning was a cruel joke. Sunlight poured through the curtains like nothing had happened. Like the universe hadn't just collapsed beneath my feet 12 hours earlier. Rachel was curled up next to me in bed, her head resting on my chest, arm draped across my stomach. She looked peaceful. Serene. As if she had no idea I knew she was a goddamn liar. I didn't sleep. Not even a second. I lay awake the whole night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath. Every rise and fall of her chest felt like a mockery. Like the woman beside me wasn't real. Just a mask. A beautiful hollow shell. She stirred eventually. Kissed my chest, looked up at me with those wide, ocean blue eyes. "Good morning, husband," she whispered. I forced a smile. It took every ounce of strength I had. "Morning," I said, my voice hoarse from silence and rage. We had breakfast in bed. She laughed like everything was perfect. Talked about how magical the wedding had been. How happy she was. How excited she felt about starting our honeymoon in the Bahamas that afternoon. I nodded, played the part. Toasted mimosas and held her hand like a man in love. Inside, I was screaming. While she showered, I went through her phone again. I needed to know how deep this went. What I found was worse than I imagined. It wasn't a one-time thing. Wasn't some drunk mistake. The guy his real name was Tyler. They'd been seeing each other for months. Meeting up in hotels, sending each other explicit messages, planning weekends together when I was out of town on business. There was a message from the day before the wedding. "I can't believe you're really going through with it." Her reply, "Neither can I. But don't worry, this doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything." Those words echoed in my skull like a gunshot. She married me, knowing she had no intention of stopping. No intention of being faithful. I wasn't even a lie she told herself. I was a cover story. A paycheck. A safety net. By the time she came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, I had already deleted the thread and placed her phone back where it was. She kissed me again, asked if I wanted to join her for one last shower before checkout. I told her I had a headache. She pouted playfully. Told me I was lucky she loved me anyway. I smiled. Said, "I know." That afternoon, we boarded the flight to Nassau. First class. Champagne in hand. She looked stunning, big sunglasses, flowy white dress, and that glow brides get when the world still thinks they're saints. I watched her read a magazine as the plane ascended, her hand resting lightly on my thigh. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I wasn't going to scream or cry or demand answers. No. I was going to play along. Let her think I was blissfully unaware. Let her build her castle of lies higher and higher. And when the moment was right, I'd light the match. Because this wasn't going to end with her getting away with it. This wasn't going to be one of those stories where the cheater walks away clean. No. If she wanted to start our marriage with betrayal, then I'd make damn sure it ended with justice. The resort in the Bahamas was exactly what she had dreamed of. Crystal clear water, private villas with infinity pools, couples walking barefoot in the sand like their love was eternal. Rachel fit right in. She played the part of the blushing newlywed so well, even I started to believe her for a moment. She held my hand constantly, kissed me under palm trees, took selfies of us with captions like, "Honeymoon bliss palm tree ring heart." Her social media was a perfectly curated lie, and I was the centerpiece of her performance. I went along with it. I smiled for every picture. Held her close when strangers complimented us. We even had dinner on the beach one night, a private table lit with candles, waves lapping softly in the background. She wore this red silk dress that clung to her like it was made just for her body. I could feel other men glance at her when they thought I wasn't looking. And still, all I could think about was how she had looked when she was straddling another man the night of our wedding. I played the devoted husband, and she played her role flawlessly. But behind her eyes, I started noticing something. Slips. Delays. Moments where she wasn't as perfectly composed. A text she answered too quickly, followed by locking her phone. A call she declined, then flipped the screen down as if to hide the name. I watched. I waited. I let her think I was distracted by love and sunshine. But every day I grew colder. Every night, after she fell asleep wrapped in my arms, I would lie there planning. Not how to save us. Not how to forgive. But how to destroy her without raising a single alarm until it was too late for her to run. I started collecting evidence. Screenshots. Cloud backups. I used her fingerprint while she was asleep to unlock her phone again. Found more conversations with Tyler. Found more lies. She was texting him during our honeymoon, telling him she missed him, that she couldn't wait to get back, that the sex with me was fine but mechanical. Mechanical. Like I was a chore. A duty. Unnecessary evil. She even joked in one message, "At least I'm getting a tan on his dime, lol." My dime. I paid for everything, wedding, resort, even her goddamn dress. She didn't contribute a cent. I didn't mind, not at first. I loved her. I thought love meant providing. But now every dollar felt like blood money. Every expense a receipt for my own humiliation. Still, I said nothing. I let the days pass. Let her build her fantasy of a perfect marriage. I played chess in silence, moving pieces she didn't even know existed. The breaking point came on the 5th night. We had dinner at the resort's rooftop restaurant overlooking the ocean. She wore a white linen wrap that made her skin glow like bronze. After dessert, she excused herself to call her mom. But her phone stayed on the table. Unlocked. I knew I had seconds. I swiped, went to her recent calls. She hadn't called her mom. She just dialed Tyler. Again. Twice. And then she had deleted the call logs, but not fast enough. The timestamps were still visible in her carrier app, which I had already synced to my laptop back home. She came back smiling. Kissed me on the cheek. Asked if I wanted to go skinny dipping under the moonlight. I agreed. Why not? Let her think everything was perfect. She undressed by the pool, laughing, twirling, tipsy on wine and deceit. I watched her dive in, water rippling around her like a dream. And as I slipped in beside her, I knew. I was no longer the man she married. I was the man who would take her entire illusion and burn it to the ground. The flight home was quiet. Not awkward. Rachel wasn't suspicious yet, but a soft kind of quiet, the kind people mistake for comfort. She curled up against me with her head on my shoulder and dozed off, her breath warm against my neck. I looked down at her, pretending to be a man filled with love, when in truth I was studying a stranger. A woman who had buried a knife in my back while promising forever. By the time we landed, I had already made arrangements. I had created a new email address, uploaded every screenshot, every photo, every text message I had recovered, and scheduled them to be sent to multiple people, her parents, her siblings, her boss, her best friend Emily, people who loved her, respected her, believed she was something she wasn't. The emails wouldn't go out just yet. But when the time came, they would detonate everything. Back at home, Rachel settled into the apartment like nothing had changed. She unpacked her suitcase, hung up her new outfits, and posted a series of carefully filtered honeymoon photos with captions like "Best week of my life. So grateful for my amazing husband, 2 hearts. The comments rolled in instantly. You guys are goals. So happy for you. Literal perfection. If only they knew. I watched her dance through our kitchen that night, humming to herself as she poured us 2 glasses of wine. She was barefoot, hair pulled into a loose bun, her tan glowing under the soft apartment lights. She looked like everything I had once prayed for. But all I saw was a ghost. A thief. Someone who had stolen my trust and wore it like jewelry. That night in bed, she reached for me. Pulled me close. Kissed me deeply, slowly, as if nothing had ever been wrong. I let her. I kissed her back. Let my hands roam her body. Let her believe I still desired her. But inside, I felt nothing. No heat. No love. Just calculation. I needed more time. Needed to know how long she planned to keep this game going. So the next day, while she was at work, I went further. I hacked into her email. Not hard, she used the same password for everything. What I found was a web. She had been emailing Tyler under a fake name. Alyssa. They had planned trips. Talked about meeting in Denver in 3 weeks. She'd even looked up flights. And worse, she had sent him pictures from our honeymoon. Cropped, of course. I wasn't in any of them. But the location tags were clear. She was showing him our life, my money, my home, my effort as if it were theirs. I stared at those emails until my hands shook. That's when I made the final decision. This wouldn't be a confrontation. This would be a public execution. I began organizing everything into a digital folder labeled The Truth. I recorded a video of me sitting at my desk, calm and cold. I looked into the camera and said, "This is what betrayal looks like. This is the face of a man who gave everything and got nothing but lies in return." Then I showed it all. The texts, the photos, the voice messages, her laughing about me, joking with Tyler, planning their future while building one with me. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to expose her, and I was going to make sure the world watched her burn. It was a Friday when I set everything into motion. Not just any Friday, our 1-month anniversary. Rachel had been planning a romantic night in 4 days. She even ordered special candles, my favorite whiskey, and some absurdly expensive lingerie that she left the receipt for out on the counter like bait. She wanted the evening to feel spontaneous, but she was choreographing it all like a director staging her final act. I played along, smiled when she texted me during the day, said I couldn't wait, told her I had a surprise for her too. She had no idea. Before I left work, I triggered the timed emails. One to each of her family members, another to our mutual friends, a third batch to her office email group labeled Confidential, Rachel Harris. It would hit their inboxes around 9 p.m. just after dessert. And then, just for good measure, I uploaded the video to YouTube under an unlisted link titled simply What My Wife Did to Me. I didn't plan to keep it private for long, but for now it was ready. I got home at 6:45 p.m. The apartment was dimly lit, the smell of vanilla and roasted chicken in the air. She greeted me in a silk robe, kissed me like she meant it, led me by the hand to the table she'd set so carefully, roses, candles, soft jazz humming from the Bluetooth speaker. She looked radiant, and I hated how much I still wanted her. We ate, drank. She fed me chocolate cake with her fingers and laughed every time I tried to steal more. She teased me, touched my leg under the table, leaned in close and whispered, "You have no idea how much I love you." I smiled. "Oh," I said softly. "I think I do." By 8:50, she was halfway through her third glass of wine. Her cheeks were flushed, her robe slightly parted, eyes heavy with lust and trust. She leaned into me and said, "Your turn." What's my surprise? I pulled out my phone, typed in the YouTube link, pressed play. At first, she smiled, expecting something romantic. Maybe a slideshow of memories or a video message from one of her favorite singers. But as soon as the video began, with my voice, stone cold, looking directly into the camera, her smile faded. She watched, silent, frozen. The texts, the pictures, her voice, her lies. Her hands slowly dropped from her lap to the table. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Just shallow breaths. When the video ended, I looked at her. Really looked at her. "This," I said, my voice low, "is who you are. And in about 5 minutes, everyone else will know too." She didn't move. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, grabbed the suitcase I had packed earlier that afternoon. I had already canceled our lease, drained our joint account, transferred every cent that was mine before she could touch it. My name was off the bills, off the lease. I was a ghost already. When I came back to the living room, she was still sitting there, phone in hand now, face pale, fingers shaking. Notifications had started pinging. I didn't wait for her to speak. I opened the door, looked back one last time, and said, "Happy anniversary, Rachel." Then I walked out. And I didn't look back. The days that followed were a blur of silence and noise. My phone exploded with messages, calls, emails from numbers I recognized and many I didn't. Friends, colleagues, distant relatives. Some reaching out with sympathy, others with stunned disbelief. A few didn't even know what to say, just sent a simple, "Saw the video. I'm so sorry." But not a single person doubted it. The evidence spoke for itself. Rachel's face, her voice, her words, all raw, unfiltered, impossible to deny. I ignored most of the messages. But one stood out. Tyler. He found my email. Sent me a pathetic little note. "Hey man, I didn't know she was married. She told me you guys were separating. I'm sorry if I caused problems." Problems? He called what he did causing problems, like he had spilled a drink on my carpet instead of screwing my wife on our wedding night. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. He wasn't the architect of the betrayal, he was just the tool she used to carry it out. A disposable thrill, nothing more. But Rachel had chosen every lie with care. She had orchestrated the whole thing, even knowing the vows she would stand and recite beside me. She tried calling me, of course. First once, then 5 times, then dozens. I blocked her. She started emailing, begging, apologizing, rambling. Her messages swung between rage and remorse, denial and confession. In one breath, she claimed it was just sex, and in the next, said she only ever loved me. One email actually said, "Can we please just talk about this like adults? You didn't have to ruin my life. Ruin her life." As if she hadn't detonated mine and danced in the ashes. Then came the fallout. Her family reached out. Her sister, Megan, was the first, furious, heartbroken, mortified. She apologized on behalf of her entire bloodline as if she could undo the damage with words. Rachel's father sent a cold, formal message, "This is not the daughter I raised. I am ashamed of her actions and extend my deepest apologies." Her mother never contacted me. But I heard through a mutual friend that she'd collapsed after seeing the emails. That she hadn't gone to work since. Rachel lost her job. Apparently, her company didn't appreciate the scandal. Word spread fast, and when private clients saw her name in connection to a viral video about infidelity and fraud, they pulled accounts. Within 3 days, she was let go to preserve the integrity of the firm. She didn't post online anymore. No stories. No updates. Her once perfect Instagram grid, curated with aesthetic filters and captions about manifesting good energy, went silent. Comments flooded her old posts. Some from strangers. Some from people we both knew. Words like liar. Snake. How could you? And I'll be honest. For a while, I checked her page daily. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to see her fall. Piece by piece. Like she had watched me fall and didn't blink. But then something shifted. After a week or so, I stopped checking. Stopped needing the confirmation of her collapse. Because somewhere in that silence, I realized something. I didn't care what happened to her anymore. Her pain didn't fix mine. Her losses didn't rebuild what she broke. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. And I was finally starting to find it. I moved out of that apartment 2 weeks after everything imploded. Packed what little I cared to keep, left the rest behind. The lease was already terminated, the deposit long gone, but I didn't mind. The place felt haunted, every room echoing with a version of myself I no longer recognized. The man who had planned dinners there. Who had imagined children running through that hallway. Who had practiced his vows alone in the mirror with trembling hands. That man was gone, buried under the weight of truth. I found a small loft on the edge of the city. Nothing fancy. Exposed brick, creaky wood floors, a kitchen barely big enough for one. But it was mine. No shared closet. No framed wedding photos mocking me from the wall. Just space. Silence. And slow, brutal healing. The first few days were hard. Not because I missed her, but because I missed who I thought she was. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't just take your partner. It takes your memories. Your sense of judgment. You start questioning every laugh, every touch, every "I love you." Was it all a lie? Or worse, was it only real to you? I kept to myself for a while. Skipped calls. Ignored invitations. Jared, my best man, came by unannounced once with pizza and 2 beers. Didn't ask questions. Just sat beside me and watched the game like everything was normal. That kind of quiet support, it matters more than people realize. Eventually, I went back to work. Kept my head down. People had heard, of course. The video had done its rounds. But no one said much. Just sympathetic nods and awkward silences in the break room. That was fine. I didn't want pity. I just wanted forward motion. Then, one afternoon, while clearing old files on my laptop, I found a video. Our wedding day. Rachel dancing with my mother. Me holding her hand during the vows. Her whispering something in my ear that made me laugh. God, I couldn't even remember what it was now. I sat there frozen, watching it play out like a memory from someone else's life. I should have deleted it. Erased it like she erased us. But I didn't. I kept it. Not as a wound, but as a scar. A reminder that real love isn't what someone says in a white dress. It's what they do when no one's watching. Rachel did what she did because she believed she'd never be caught. Because she valued thrill over loyalty. Lust over love. Comfort over commitment. That wasn't my fault. I gave everything. Openly. Honestly. Fully. And that makes me proud, not weak. She lost me. Not the other way around. It wasn't until a few months later that Rachel reached out again. Not through calls, not through social media, but a letter. Handwritten. Folded neatly inside a plain white envelope. Left at the front desk of my office with my name scrawled in shaky ink. I recognized her handwriting immediately. I almost threw it away without opening it. But something made me pause. Maybe curiosity. Maybe closure. Maybe a sick part of me that still wanted to understand why. I took it home. Poured a drink. sat at my kitchen table and read it in silence. It was 5 pages long. She started with apologies. Too many, as if stacking them one after the other might soften the blow. She wrote about how sorry she was, how broken she felt, how humiliated and alone. She said she'd lost everything. Her job, her friends, her family's respect, and that it was all her fault. She didn't try to blame me, not directly, but she did write something that stayed with me, something that crawled under my skin. I didn't cheat because I didn't love you. I cheated because I didn't know how to handle being truly loved by someone like you. That line made me pause, made me angry, made me sad, because it wasn't a justification, it was a confession of cowardice. She couldn't match the love I gave, so she ran from it, undermined it, sabotaged it before it could expose her own emptiness. I understood that, in a way, but it didn't make the betrayal easier to swallow. She asked for nothing, not forgiveness, not a second chance, just for me to know she regretted it, that it haunted her, that if she could go back, she would have walked away before the wedding instead of pretending she was ready to be someone she wasn't. I didn't write back. What could I possibly say? I folded the letter and placed it in the back of my desk drawer. Not out of sentiment, not to remember her, but to remember the lesson. That love isn't enough if it's one-sided. That trust, once shattered, can't be glued back together by guilt alone. That even the most beautiful promises mean nothing without action to uphold them. And so I moved forward, not with bitterness, not with revenge still burning in my chest, but with clarity, with strength, with the kind of peace that comes not from forgetting what happened but from surviving it, and choosing to live better in spite of it. A year has passed, 12 months since I stood in a tuxedo beside a woman I thought would be my forever. Since I smiled for photos, kissed her on the lips, and whispered promises into her ear while she was already breaking every one of them behind my back. A year since the illusion shattered like glass, leaving shards I had to pull from my chest one by one. I've changed since then, not just the obvious changes. New apartment, new routines, a quieter life, but in the way I move through the world. I'm more cautious now, not cold, not closed, but sharper, more aware. I don't mistake charm for character anymore. I don't confuse comfort with safety. I've learned to sit with discomfort, to trust the unease in my gut instead of burying it beneath hope. People ask sometimes if I've started dating again. The answer is yes. Slowly, carefully. I'm not chasing anything. I'm not looking to fill a void. I'm not trying to erase Rachel's memory with someone new, because that's not how healing works. You don't outrun betrayal. You carry it. You learn its shape. You learn how to keep it from poisoning everything else. I've met someone recently. Her name is Claire. She's kind in a way that's quiet, not performative. When she laughs, it's not for attention. It's because she means it. We take things slow. No pressure. No pretending. She knows what I've been through. I told her everything. Not because I needed her to fix me, but because I owed her the truth. And she listened. Really listened. Not with pity, but with respect. Some nights I still think about Rachel. Not with longing. Not with hate, but with a strange sort of detachment, like remembering a version of yourself that no longer exists. She was a chapter, painful one, but not the whole story. Because here's what I've come to understand. Betrayal doesn't define you. It wounds, it changes, teaches, but it doesn't have to break you forever. What defines you is what comes after. How you rise, how you rebuild, how you learn to love again. Not just someone new, but yourself. Fully, fiercely, without apology. So if you've been hurt, if you've been betrayed in ways that made you question everything, know this. You are not weak for having trusted. You are not foolish for having loved. And you are not broken beyond repair. You are simply human. And sometimes the deepest scars make space for the strongest growth. This is not just the story of how my wife betrayed me. It's the story of how I found myself on the other side, and how piece by piece I became whole again.